3:47 a.m. Columbus, Ohio. 12 FBI agents in plain clothes surrounded a single-story rental property on Kellner Road. No lights inside, no vehicles in the driveway. The target was asleep. The entry team breached the front door in under 4 seconds. Inside the basement, a rack of 6 servers hummed behind a soundproofing panel. A 31-year-old IT contractor sat upright in a fold-out cot, blinking into flashlight beams. On those servers, a customer database containing 312 names. People who had paid to have other people eliminated. The platform was called FinalOrder. It had operated on the dark web for nearly 3 years, and the FBI had just pulled the plug. This is the story of how a single server migration error, lasting less than 90 seconds, unraveled one of the largest murder-for-hire marketplaces ever documented on the dark web. FinalOrder first appeared on the Tor network in March 2023. The platform operated as a simple marketplace. A customer would submit a target's name, photograph, home address, daily routine, and preferred time frame. The platform's operators would then assign the contract to one of several listed service providers. Payments were accepted exclusively in Monero, a privacy-focused cryptocurrency designed to be significantly harder to trace than Bitcoin. The entry price for a standard domestic contract was $5,000. Pricing scaled upward based on the target's profile. Public figures, individuals with security details, or targets in gated communities cost more. Rush orders, completion within 72 hours, carried a 40% surcharge. The site's interface was professional, clean layout. FAQ section, a customer service chat function staffed around the clock. There was even a review system, though most reviews were fabricated by the operators themselves. And for the majority of FinalOrder's existence, the entire operation was a scam. The operators collected Monero payments, sent fabricated confirmation messages, and never dispatched anyone. Customers who complained were told the contractor had encountered complications. Refund requests were ignored. Repeat complainers were blocked. It was a grim business model built on a grimmer premise. People willing to pay for violence were unlikely to report being defrauded to the police. But the scam had a problem. Not every order stayed on paper. FBI analysts working alongside Europol's European Cybercrime Center, known as EC3, would later determine that of the 312 orders placed through FinalOrder between 2023 and late 2025, at least 19 correlated with real-world acts of violence. In those cases, the platform's operators had apparently connected paying customers with actual individuals willing to carry out attacks. 3 of those 19 cases resulted in confirmed homicides on U.S. soil. The FBI's cyber division had been aware of FinalOrder since mid-2024. The platform was flagged during a routine dark web monitoring sweep conducted out of the Bureau's Cyber Operations Center in College Park, Maryland. An analyst cataloged the site, noted its Monero-only payment structure, and filed an initial assessment classifying it as a likely scam operation, one of dozens operating at any given time on Tor-hosted marketplaces. That assessment was accurate at the time, but it would need to be revised. In January 2025, a homicide detective in Norfolk, Virginia, contacted the FBI's Richmond field office with an unusual request. A 34-year-old woman named Rachel Engel had been found dead in her apartment. Single gunshot wound, no forced entry, no robbery, no known enemies. Her estranged husband, Derek Engel, had an airtight alibi. He was attending a corporate training seminar in Charlotte, North Carolina at the time of the shooting, verified by hotel keycard logs and seminar sign-in sheets. But the detective had found something on Derek Engel's personal laptop during a consent search: a Tor browser, a bookmarked .onion address, and a series of Monero wallet transactions totaling $7,500 routed through 3 intermediary wallets, each one used only once. The detective didn't know what FinalOrder was. He forwarded the digital evidence to the Bureau's cyber division for analysis. That referral changed the trajectory of the entire investigation. Within 2 weeks, FBI cyber analysts confirmed the .onion address matched FinalOrder's known URL. The Monero transactions, while heavily obfuscated, followed a pattern consistent with payments to the platform. Derek Engel had not simply browsed the site. He had placed an order, and the order had been fulfilled. The Norfolk homicide was no longer a local case. The FBI's Criminal Investigative Division formally opened a federal investigation into FinalOrder in February 2025, designating it Operation Closed Circuit. The case was assigned to a joint task force operating out of the FBI's Washington field office, with cyber support from College Park and international coordination through the Bureau's legal attaché offices in Europe. the task force faced an immediate challenge. FinalOrder's infrastructure was designed to resist exactly this kind of investigation. The site ran on Tor, routing traffic through multiple encrypted relays. Payments were in Monero, which, unlike Bitcoin, does not record transaction amounts or wallet addresses on a public blockchain. The site's operators communicated with customers through an encrypted messaging system built into the platform itself. No email, no phone numbers, no external accounts. Traditional investigative techniques, subpoenas to payment processors, warrants to email providers, pen registers on phone lines, and BS had no purchase here. The task force needed a different approach. If you're watching this and you find this kind of investigation compelling, hit subscribe now. What comes next is the part most people never hear about. The FBI's strategy centered on two parallel tracks. Track 1. Identify and interview customers whose orders had resulted in real violence. Track 2. Find the platform's operators by attacking its technical infrastructure. Track 1 began with the Norfolk case. Derek Engel was arrested on February 19, 2025, and charged with conspiracy to commit murder and solicitation of murder for hire. During post-arrest interrogation, Engel provided limited but useful information about how he had found FinalOrder through a referral link posted on a dark web forum and how the payment process worked. He described a multi-step verification system. After submitting a target's details, the customer received a confirmation code. After payment, a second code. And after the contract was reportedly completed, a third code accompanied by a photograph of the target. Engel confirmed he had received all three codes. The photograph matched his wife, but Engel could not identify the operators. All communication had been through the platform's internal messaging system. He had never spoken to anyone by voice or video. He did not know where the servers were located. He did not know whether the service providers were individuals or part of a larger network. Track 1 had produced a confession and a prosecution, but it had not penetrated FinalOrder's operational core. Track 2 required patience. FBI cyber analysts began a systematic campaign to monitor FinalOrder's technical infrastructure. They mapped the site's Tor hidden service descriptors, analyzed traffic patterns visible at Tor relay nodes where the Bureau had legal authority to collect metadata, and attempted to correlate server uptime patterns with real-world events, power outages, internet service disruptions, time zone indicators in site maintenance windows. For months, this yielded nothing actionable. FinalOrder's operators maintained disciplined operational security. Server maintenance occurred at irregular intervals. The site's hidden service descriptors rotated frequently. There were no detectable patterns linking the platform's activity to any specific geographic location. Then, on October 14, 2025, the operators made a mistake. At approximately 2:11 a.m. Eastern Time, FinalOrder's Tor hidden service went offline. This was not unusual. The site experienced brief outages every few weeks, typically lasting between 10 and 40 minutes. FBI analysts monitoring the site logged the downtime and continued their watch. The site came back online at 2:23 a.m., 12 minutes of downtime. But during a window of approximately 70 seconds within that 12-minute gap, something anomalous occurred. An IP address, a real, unmasked IP address, briefly appeared in connection logs captured by a cooperating Tor relay node. The IP address resolved to a residential internet service provider in Columbus, Ohio, Spectrum Business. The account was registered to a property on Kellner Road. What had happened was a server migration error. FinalOrder's operators were transferring the platform from one physical server to another, likely as part of a routine security measure. During the transfer, the new server briefly connected to the Tor network without its hidden service configuration fully active. For roughly 70 seconds, the server's real IP address was exposed to any relay node handling its traffic. 70 seconds. That was all it took. FBI cyber analysts flagged the IP address within hours. A check of ISP records identified the account holder as Marcus Dreyer, age 31, an IT contractor working remotely for several small businesses in the Columbus area. No criminal record, no prior law enforcement contact, a forgettable name attached to a forgettable address in a forgettable suburb. But the FBI did not move immediately. An IP address alone was not sufficient. The task force needed to confirm that Dreyer was operating FinalOrder, not simply hosting a server that happened to route through his connection. They needed to build a case that would survive a federal courtroom. Over the next 6 weeks, the FBI assembled the evidence. A federal magistrate in the Southern District of Ohio authorized a pen register and trap and trace order on Dreyer's internet connection. Agents documented traffic patterns consistent with Tor hidden service operation. High volumes of encrypted data routed through known Tor entry nodes with activity spikes correlating to FinalOrder's uptime. Separately, FBI agents conducted physical surveillance on the Kellner Road property. They documented Dreyer's daily patterns. He left the house rarely. Grocery runs on Tuesdays, a gym visit on Thursday evenings. Deliveries arrived frequently. Server components, networking equipment, a rack-mountable UPS battery system. Each delivery was photographed and cataloged. A review of Dreyer's financial records, obtained through a separate warrant, revealed a pattern of income that did not match his declared freelance IT work. Over the preceding 18 months, Dreyer had deposited approximately $340,000 in cash into 3 separate bank accounts, all at different institutions. The deposits were structured to remain below the $10,000 currency transaction report threshold, a classic indicator of money laundering known as structuring. The FBI also identified a second individual connected to the operation. Analysis of Dreyer's internet traffic and physical mail revealed regular communication with a woman named Irina Morozova, age 28, a Ukrainian national living in Krakow, Poland. Europol's EC3 unit, working on a parallel track, had independently flagged Morozova as a person of interest in connection with several dark web fraud operations. She appeared to handle FinalOrder's customer-facing communications, the 24-hour chat function, the fabricated reviews, the payment verification codes. The connection between Dreyer and Morozova was the bridge between the platform's technical infrastructure in Ohio and its customer operations in Europe. It was also the connection that made the case international. By late November 2025, Operation Closed Circuit had evolved from a single homicide investigation into a sprawling federal case spanning 2 continents. The task force now included agents from the FBI's Cyber Division, Criminal Investigative Division, and International Operations Division, along with analysts from Europol's EC3 and Poland's Central Bureau for Combating Cybercrime. But the most significant phase of the investigation was still ahead, identifying the customers. When FBI cyber analysts first mapped FinalOrder's customer database, using traffic analysis and the Norfolk case as a starting point, they estimated approximately 300 active accounts. The precise number, confirmed after Dreyer's servers were seized, was 312. Of those 312, the vast majority, roughly 280, appeared to have been scam victims. They paid, received fake confirmation codes, and either gave up or were blocked when they complained. These individuals had committed federal crimes by soliciting murder for hire, but there was no corresponding real-world violence to investigate. The remaining cases were different. FBI analysts cross-referenced FinalOrder payment records with unsolved violent crimes across the United States and Europe. The methodology was painstaking. Match a payment date and target description from the platform's records against law enforcement databases of assaults, shootings, and homicides occurring within a plausible time frame and geographic area. 19 matches, 19 cases where a FinalOrder order preceded a real-world act of violence against the named target within 30 days. 14 of those 19 cases were in the United States. The 3 confirmed homicides were the Norfolk case involving Rachel Engel, a shooting in Tucson, Arizona in June 2024, and a staged car accident in Raleigh, North Carolina in April 2025. In each case, the target matched a FinalOrder order, the timing aligned, and subsequent forensic analysis of seized records confirmed payment and fulfillment codes had been issued. The remaining cases included aggravated assaults, arson, and 1 attempted poisoning. If this story has you thinking, leave a comment below. We rate everyone. The question the task force now faced was operational. How to arrest 14 suspects scattered across 11 states without any of them learning about the operation and destroying evidence, fleeing, or, worst case, accelerating plans against additional targets. The answer was simultaneity. Every arrest had to happen at the same time. Planning for the coordinated arrest sweep began in December 2025 and consumed the task force for nearly 2 months. Each of the 14 domestic suspects required a separate arrest plan. Each plan required coordination with the relevant FBI field office, the local U.S. Attorney's Office for warrant authorization, and, in many cases, local law enforcement agencies whose SWAT teams would execute the warrants. The logistics were enormous: 14 arrest packages, 11 states, 47 individual warrants, 14 arrest warrants plus warrants for residences, vehicles, storage units, and electronic devices. Briefing materials had to be prepared for every participating agency. Timing had to be synchronized to within minutes. The task force designated the operation date as February 11, 2026. Execution time, 5 a.m. Eastern adjusted for local time zones. Every team would breach simultaneously. In the weeks leading up to the sweep, FBI agents conducted final surveillance on each target. They confirmed current addresses, identified vehicles, noted the presence of weapons in households where firearms registrations existed, and assessed each location's tactical profile. Number of entry points, proximity of neighbors, presence of children or other uninvolved occupants. The case files read like a cross-section of American grievance. Suspect 4, Derek Engel, already in custody in Virginia, awaiting trial for the murder of his wife Rachel. His case was the origin point of the entire investigation. Suspect 7, Alan Pruitt, age 44, a restaurant owner in Phoenix, Arizona. Pruitt had placed a $12,000 order on FinalOrder, targeting his former business partner, who had filed a lawsuit alleging embezzlement. The partner survived an assault outside his home in September 2024. 2 broken ribs, a fractured orbital bone. At the time, Phoenix PD had no suspects. Suspect 11, Diane Hargrove, age 52, a property manager in Portland, Oregon. Hargrove had ordered a contract on a tenant who had filed multiple complaints with the city's housing authority about code violations in Hargrove's buildings. The tenant's car was set on fire in his driveway in March 2025. No injuries, but the investigation had gone cold. Suspect 14, Gregory Yoon, age 38, a software developer in suburban Atlanta. Yoon had placed 2 separate orders, the first targeting a former romantic partner who had obtained a restraining order against him, the second targeting the partner's new boyfriend. Neither order had resulted in violence. Both had been scams, but the solicitation itself was a federal crime carrying up to 10 years. Each case was different, each motive was personal, but the mechanism was the same: a website, a cryptocurrency payment, and the belief that the dark web provided anonymity. February 11, 2026. 4:47 a.m. Eastern, FBI field offices across 11 states reported ready status. In each location, tactical teams were staged within 2 blocks of their targets. Communications were routed through a dedicated encrypted channel monitored by the task force command post at the Washington field office. At 5 a.m. Eastern, 4 a.m. Central, 3 a.m. Mountain, 2 a.m. Pacific, the command post transmitted a single word: execute. In Virginia Beach, a 6-agent team approached a split-level home on a cul-de-sac. The suspect's wife answered the door. The suspect was located in a second-floor bedroom. He was handcuffed without incident. On his nightstand, a laptop with Tor browser still open. In Phoenix, the SWAT team assigned to Alan Pruitt's residence encountered a complication. Pruitt owned 4 registered firearms, including a 12-gauge shotgun. The tactical plan called for a no-knock entry, based on a judicial finding of probable cause for evidence destruction. The team breached the front door at 3:01 a.m. local time. Pruitt was found in the kitchen. He did not resist. The shotgun was in an upstairs closet, unloaded. In Portland, Diane Hargrove was not at her listed residence. Surveillance had noted her car leaving the property the previous evening. A secondary team was dispatched to her office on Southeast Hawthorne Boulevard, where she was located at 2:14 a.m. Pacific time, sleeping on a couch in a back office. She was arrested without incident. In Atlanta, Gregory Yoon's arrest required additional precaution. The restraining order filed by his former partner indicated a history of volatile behavior. The Fulton County SWAT team executed the warrant at 5 a.m. Eastern. Yoon attempted to close and lock his bedroom door when he heard the breach. The team was through the door in under 10 seconds. Yoon was prone on the floor. He was handcuffed and removed from the residence. Digital forensics teams entered immediately afterward to secure 3 computers and 2 external hard drives. Across all 11 states, the sweep was completed by 5:47 a.m. Eastern. 13 of 14 domestic suspects were in custody. The 14th, a 29-year-old woman in Boise, Idaho, who had ordered a contract on her stepfather, had crossed the state line into Nevada 3 days earlier. A federal fugitive warrant was issued. She was apprehended by U.S. Marshals at a motel in Reno on February 14, 2026. Meanwhile, the international component of the operation unfolded on a parallel timeline. On the same morning, Polish law enforcement officers executed a European arrest warrant on Irina Morozova at her apartment in Krakow. Morozova's seized electronics contained records of customer communications spanning the full operational period of FinalOrder, as well as evidence of Monero wallet management consistent with her role as the platform's financial administrator. Marcus Dreyer, the platform's primary operator, had been in federal custody since the pre-dawn raid on Kellner Road, the scene that opened this account. His arrest had been the first domino, timed 15 minutes before the broader sweep to allow digital forensics teams to begin imaging his servers before any remote kill switch could be activated. The digital forensics phase of Operation Closed Circuit produced what the FBI's cyber division would later describe as one of the most complete datasets ever recovered from a dark web criminal platform. Dreyer's servers contained the full FinalOrder database, 312 customer accounts, payment records, target profiles, communication logs, and fulfillment codes. The data was not encrypted at rest due to a significant operational security failure that suggested Dreyer, despite his technical competence, had prioritized the platform's functionality over its resilience to seizure. The database confirmed the 19 cases of real-world violence. It also revealed something the task force had not anticipated: a separate tier of the platform accessible only through a secondary authentication system that appeared to function as a referral network. 5 of FinalOrder's most persistent customers, individuals who had placed multiple orders, had been offered the opportunity to recruit new customers in exchange for a 10% commission on referred payments. This referral system meant that FinalOrder was not simply a marketplace, it was, in a limited but functional sense, a multi-level criminal enterprise. The 5 referral agents had collectively recruited an estimated 47 additional customers. The commission payments, totaling approximately $23,000 in Monero, were traceable through Dreyer's internal accounting records, even though they would have been invisible on the Monero blockchain itself. The referral network added a new dimension to the prosecution. Each of the 5 referral agents faced additional charges of conspiracy and aiding and abetting. As of March 2026, federal grand juries in the Southern District of Ohio, the Eastern District of Virginia, the District of Arizona, and the District of Oregon had returned indictments against 17 individuals connected to FinalOrder. Marcus Dreyer was charged with operating a murder-for-hire platform, money laundering, and conspiracy, charges carrying a combined maximum sentence of life imprisonment. Irina Morozova faced extradition proceedings from Poland, with the U.S. government seeking her transfer under the U.S.-Poland Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty. Of the 14 domestic customers arrested in the February sweep, 12 had entered plea negotiations by the end of March 2026. 2, including Alan Pruitt in Phoenix, had retained counsel and indicated they would proceed to trial. The 3 confirmed homicide cases presented the most severe charges. Derek Engel in Virginia, the originating case, faced first-degree murder charges in state court, in addition to the federal solicitation charges. The Tucson and Raleigh cases remained under active investigation, with federal prosecutors coordinating with local district attorneys on jurisdictional questions. But the customer database also contained 280 accounts linked to scam transactions, individuals who had paid for violence that was never delivered. The legal status of these individuals was complex. Each had committed the federal crime of solicitation of murder for hire under 18 U.S.C. Section 373, which does not require that the solicited act be carried out. But prosecuting 280 additional defendants was a resource question as much as a legal one. The Department of Justice's internal guidance, according to sources familiar with the deliberations, prioritized cases involving confirmed violence, cases with strong corroborating digital evidence, and cases where the intended targets could be identified and might still be at risk. Under these criteria, an additional 31 cases were flagged for potential prosecution beyond the original 14. The remaining accounts were referred to the FBI's field offices for assessment and, where appropriate, subject interviews. The financial trail told its own story. FinalOrder had collected approximately $1.4 million in Monero payments over its operational period. Of that amount, Dreyer had converted an estimated $340,000 to US dollars through a series of over-the-counter cryptocurrency exchanges, unlicensed, cash-based operations that charged a premium for anonymity. The remaining Monero, approximately $1.06 million at current exchange rates, sat in wallets whose access keys were found on Dreyer's seized servers. The FBI's Asset Forfeiture Unit initiated proceedings to seize both the converted US dollar funds and the Monero holdings. The Monero seizure presented novel legal questions. Unlike Bitcoin, where seized funds can be transferred to government-controlled wallets with relative ease, Monero's privacy architecture made the process more technically complex. The Bureau's technical staff worked with cryptocurrency compliance firms to execute the transfers, but not all the money was recoverable. Analysis of Dreyer's records indicated that approximately $190,000 in Monero had been forwarded to wallet addresses that could not be linked to any known exchange or individual. This amount represented payments to the actual perpetrators of violence, the individuals who had carried out the 19 real-world attacks. Their identities remained unknown. This was the investigation's most significant unresolved element. FinalOrder's operators had connected customers with perpetrators, but the perpetrators themselves had been insulated by the platform's architecture. Communications between FinalOrder and its service providers used a separate encrypted channel that Dreyer's servers did not log. The perpetrators' Monero wallet addresses led nowhere traceable. As of early April 2026, the FBI had not identified a single perpetrator responsible for the physical violence in any of the 19 cases. 3 people were dead. Multiple others had been assaulted, their property destroyed, and the individuals who had pulled the triggers, swung the weapons, and set the fires remained unidentified. The FinalOrder case forced a reckoning within federal law enforcement about the dark web murder-for-hire threat. For years, the prevailing assessment had been that the vast majority of such platforms were scams, that the operational complexity of actually connecting anonymous customers with anonymous perpetrators across geographic distances was too high to sustain. FinalOrder proved that assessment was incomplete. The platform had been mostly a scam. Roughly 90% of its orders were never fulfilled. But the remaining 10% had produced real violence and real death. The scam model had actually functioned as a screening mechanism. By processing hundreds of orders and collecting payments regardless of fulfillment, the operators identified the most persistent and motivated customers and selectively connected them with real perpetrators. The implications were significant. If a single platform operating from a basement in Columbus, Ohio could facilitate 3 murders and 16 other acts of violence over a 3-year period, the potential for larger, better resourced operations was clear. Subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. The FBI's Cyber Division, in its internal after-action assessment, identified several factors that had enabled FinalOrder's operation and that would likely apply to future platforms. First, Monero's privacy features had effectively neutralized traditional financial investigation techniques for the duration of the platform's operation. The breakthrough had come from a technical error, not from cryptocurrency tracing. Second, the Tor network's anonymity protections had functioned as designed. The platform's location was discovered only because of a momentary configuration failure during a server migration, not because of any inherent weakness in Tor's architecture. Third, the platform's operators had maintained effective operational security for nearly 3 years, suggesting a level of technical discipline that, while not exceptional, was sufficient to evade detection for an extended period. The after-action assessment also noted what it called the demand signal. 312 individuals had sought out a murder-for-hire platform and placed orders. Even accounting for the scam victim dynamic, some customers may have been testing the platform's legitimacy rather than genuinely seeking violence. The volume indicated a persistent demand for anonymous violence facilitation. FinalOrder was not the first such platform. The FBI had previously disrupted similar sites, including Besa Mafia in 2016, and a string of copycat operations in subsequent years. In each case, the platforms had been predominantly scams. In each case, a small percentage of orders had nevertheless resulted in real violence. The pattern repeated, the platforms were taken down, new ones appeared, the demand remained. Marcus Dreyer is currently held without bail at the Franklin County Correctional Facility in Columbus, Ohio, awaiting trial scheduled for September 2026. His public defender has filed motions challenging the admissibility of evidence obtained through the Tor relay node monitoring, arguing that the data collection constituted an unreasonable search under the Fourth Amendment. The government has countered that the cooperating relay node operated under a valid court order and that the briefly exposed IP address was transmitted voluntarily as part of routine network protocol. Irina Morozova remains in Polish custody, pending extradition proceedings. Her defense attorneys in Krakow have contested the U.S. extradition request on jurisdictional grounds, arguing that her activities were conducted entirely from Polish territory and should be prosecuted under Polish law. Derek Engel's state murder trial in Norfolk is scheduled for July 2026. The woman apprehended in Reno, the 14th domestic suspect, has pleaded guilty to solicitation of murder for hire and is cooperating with federal investigators. In total, Operation Closed Circuit involved 143 FBI agents, 22 Europol analysts, law enforcement personnel from 11 U.S. states and 3 European countries, and produced 17 federal indictments with additional charges expected. The FinalOrder platform is offline. Its servers are in an FBI evidence vault, its customer database is being mined for additional leads, but the $190,000 forwarded to unidentified perpetrators has not been recovered. 3 homicide cases remain open at the state level, and the identities of the individuals who carried out the physical violence, the hands that held the weapons, are still unknown. The marketplace is gone. The infrastructure that made it possible is not.